Right, my topic was fluency, and fluency has many different definitions, but in common, the most common definition is fluency is the ability to read aloud expressively and automatically with understanding. Fluency and comprehension do go together. If fluency is low, then the comprehension will be low. And if your fluency is up, it's high, your comprehension will be high. The Natural Reading Panel states that fluency is the ability to read a text quickly, accurately, and with a proper expression. The NRP conducted a study that found that fluency and comprehension are correlated and that they must be taught together. The first article I read was Reading Fluency and Its Intervention by Woolf, and most of the articles that I found were by Woolf and somebody else who had different people. And there are three factors to the recent attention given to fluency and its intervention, and the result is the systematic research on the role of the phonological process in reading failure and intervention has proven successful and insufficient. Increased awareness of multiple underlying sources that can contribute to or impede fluency development, and naming speed research and involved cumulative evidence from subtype research and developmental dyslexia. Woolf did a lot with fluency and dyslexia and both and how they affected the brain. Ways to help with fluency is a RAVE-O program. It emphasizes the rapid recognition and practice of frequent orthographic letter patterns in English, direct integration of vocabulary development and engagement with language. To pick up fluency, you need to be able to interact with other people, other texts, to get your fluency. There's oral reading fluency norms. This is a valuable assessment tool for teachers. Hasbrook and Tyndall reassessed and update fluency norms that were stated in a National Reading Panel report. The first study was published in 1992, and Hasbrook and Tyndall researched and redid theirs in 2002. The authors discussed the role of the oral reading fluency in the reading assessments, rational support for screening and reading, and concerns about fluency measures and screening tools, and for monitoring student progress. The authors of the article felt that early elementary reading instruction should target phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, and comprehension. The authors also studied that words read correctly per minute across several conditions and found that while all the strategies that they used helped improve the reading and fluency, repeated reading was the most effective strategy. Why I chose this topic? A lot of the students that I've been working with and tutoring, not only for this class, but helping out in other places, fluency was one of the biggest issues that the students were having when reading, and I understand the impact of fluency and the comprehension that goes with it. And last school year, both of my children would come home with reading A to Z worksheets and would work on fluency. So they come home with this. So this does, reading A to Z is used, and there is getting to be a big emphasis in teaching fluency to the students. I know my daughter come home, we're studying fluency. She says, right. So it's happening third and fourth. And how will this information help me teach? Many of the sources of information I found will help me build the fluency and comprehension. Woolf had a lot of different topics and ideas and strategies to use, and they were really good and relevant. And even some of her stuff was put on scholastic.com. And I will use different strategies to help my children to improve the fluency at his or her level. So what will work for one child won't necessarily work for the other. Information that was confirmed what I already knew was the fluency and the comprehension do go hand in hand. And the lower the fluency, the lower the comprehension, and the higher the fluency, the higher the comprehension. Did I exhaust my top interest in this top? No, not really. There was lots of articles out there. I think I ended up with about 2 inches worth of articles and had to narrow it down to the best 3 or 4. And I think after I find a few minutes myself, I'm going to read the rest of them. And I was really impressed with the work of Marian Woolf. She did a lot. Questions?
Actually, I was not familiar with her name, so that's I didn't have introduced her.
Her name was everywhere. I figured Scholastic did it earlier.
Good job.
Well, Cassie gets sent out. Speaking of reading A to Z, has anyone tried to register? Somebody tried to use the code today and it said it didn't work. So I'll be getting in touch with Mr. Scoopy.
This is our code here. Says you. You guys should get a video chat. I'm sure you want to save to this one.
I keep calling me. So I can call late in the evening. They'll be at work and I'll catch them.
If I warned you, like, you see it never pop up.
Case number 527.
Okay, are we ready?
We are, the crickets are standing by.
Okay, so my topic is fluency. First of all, I want to give you a definition. Fluency is accurate, rapid, and expressive reading. That was from the National Reading Panel. But my favorite definition of fluency is the one that Dr. Cohen has given us. The one where she said, reading without fluency is reading with spaces between your words. I love that. You've given that to us more than once, and I just really like it. So why is fluency important to me? Basically, fluency serves as a foundation to all other aspects of children's education. So, I mean, even when they get into middle school and high school, their different content areas, they need to know how to fluently read. If they're reading fluently, they're going to comprehend the text that they're reading. Also, in order to gain, like I just said, to gain comprehension, students must first attain reading fluency. I also gave a quote by these two gentlemen. It provides the bridge between word recognition and comprehension. What Sam said. Okay. So why is fluency critical? And I have a YouTube video and it's this lady, she's a reading specialist. It's just a couple of minutes long, but I really liked it. She really breaks it down well.
Hi, my name is Ann Glass. I'm a reading and learning specialist at a private school in New York City, and I work with kindergartners through 3rd graders on reading, word study, and writing skills. In addition to being a reading specialist and a learning specialist, I'm also a parent, and today I'm going to talk to you about topics in reading. Reading fluency has become a pretty hot topic in reading research, and it's also something I get asked about a lot by parents. Fluency in reading refers to how skilled readers sound when they're reading aloud. Readers read with accuracy at the word level, a quicker pace, and prosodic conversational inflections. It's basically conversational, natural-sounding reading. The only way that you can achieve fluency in reading is by having accurate decoding as your foundation. It is for that reason that fluency needs to start being addressed as early as possible at the word level, and even when children are being taught to learn their letter names. The fact is that fluency depends on automaticity at the word level, and that this is really a critical piece of reading instruction that should be included in instruction right from day one. Becoming automatic at the word level is something that takes practice starting in kindergarten and continues through first grade. If you have automaticity in word identification and you can read words accurately and quickly, you will progress from word level accuracy to phrasing, to sentences, and to extended text lengths as in paragraphs and chapters. Fluent reading is critical to skilled reading because it provides the foundation for building comprehension skills. If you are putting too much effort and spending too much time decoding at a word level, and you're doing it in a way that is laborious and time-consuming and requires all of your attention, then you're not going to have any cognitive resources free to address what the text is about that you're reading.
What is it?
They have those just words on their ring.
Okay, so moving on. Next, I'm going to talk about some information that I found about fluency. I actually did my action research project on fluency, and that kind of influenced me to use fluency as my topic of interest. I loved watching the kids, it was just 6 weeks, and just to watch how much they grew in those 6 weeks. And so I wanted to talk about some of the strategies that you can implement in your classroom that I found through my action research that were effective. Reader's theater, choral reading, assisted repeated readings, they're all strategies that you can apply when teaching fluency. Assisted repeated readings is a strategy where the student reads passages aloud several times and they receive guidance and feedback from the teacher. Reader's theater is a strategy where students rehearse and perform a play for others. Choral reading is a strategy where students read along as a group with the teacher or other adult reader. I found that students really loved the reader's theater. It was just something different. They were excited to get up and perform it for their classmates, and they were just really motivated with that. So I just learned, that you have to use effective strategies, and finding out what your students like, what works for your students, because what works for one student, like she said, isn't always going to work for another. Including fluency in my classroom, like I said, I will perform action research. I want to figure out what works, what doesn't. I want to implement those strategies that I find are most effective. I won't always expect, students to completely comprehend text if fluency is not yet achieved, because if they're focusing so much on decoding words, they're not really at that comprehension level. And then I will use 1-minute fluency assessments to see where students stand and any improvements that they might have made. These were just the articles that I found. I found 3. Reading Fluency, The Road to Developing Efficient and Effective Readers. This article addresses many questions regarding fluency. Right down the list. What does fluency mean? How is it assessed? What is the connection to phonics? And what are the ways teachers are addressing fluency in the classroom? I also found an article on Timothy Brzezinski, which you can find a lot of articles by him. It's called Why Reading Fluency Should Be Hot. He focused on fluency is the center of authentic reading instruction in which the aim of students' reading is comprehension. Fluency can be taught in ways that students find authentic, engaging, and well connected to the literacy curriculum as well as to other subject areas taught in school. And research has demonstrated that authentic fluency instruction can indeed improve students' reading fluency, comprehension, and attitude. And then the last article was called Fluency Interventions for Developmental Readers. And it basically just looked at repeated readings and why reading It provides a summary intended to increase reading teachers' understanding of reading fluency and reading instruction. And that is all I have for you.
Remember what I told all of you, that I hope that you carried away from your action research class because they were facing it with such trepidation? What did I say? They don't know, there was too much trepidation. That you would, I hope, like to do research once you finish the course, because as a teacher, you would be doing that all the time in terms of formative assessments and looking at the results, and that's a type of research. Initial psychology. I remember, several we did.
That would be me.
And that would be Morgan, who's up next. You did, what hybrid skills? Concept blends, needed words, right? You did several different things though, you changed it up several different ways, I remember that. Kind of on the floor, doing one book.
Okay, so once again, we're talking about fluency. And we're going to start off with a definition of what is fluency. And this is a definition given in one of this is actually from the readingruckus.org website. And it says fluency is defined as the ability to read with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. And Timothy Rosinski, who Cassie just talked about, and shout out to Dr. Cohen for telling me during my action research project, she's like, I better see Rosinski in your references. So he's the man when it comes to fluency. And he's also a professor at Kent State University. And he says that fluency is, in its fullest and most authentic sense, it's reading with and for meaning. Lack of reading fluency is closely related to poor comprehension and overall reading ability. Fluency is a fundamental part of reading and should be a part of the school curriculum, which this basically sums up why I chose fluency and my interest in it. As you already have heard, I did this for action research, and it's just something that I enjoy doing, and it's something that is critical because the ability to read fluently helps you academically in all content standards. And it also, if you can read fluently, that goes hand in hand with comprehension, like the ladies just have discussed. I kind of took a different spin on fluency this time, and the articles that I found focused on the issue of fluency being seen more as all about the number, so about your speed, rather than the focus on comprehension. And Rosinski tells his readers in the articles that I found that there are 3 components of fluency. You should read text at proper rates, which is your speed aspect. You should accurately identify words, and you should use expression. So why are students becoming so obsessed with just a number of words per minute? And this is your reading rate, and it is important. It's a significant aspect to fluency instruction, but we must remember as educators that fluency is more than that. Do not forget that your end goal of fluency is ultimately comprehension. Rosinski says that disfluent reading is a common reading problem which leads to the referral of special services for students. And we've talked about this in class. You wonder, why do they need special service referrals? Why are they having all these IEPs and issues that are going on in our classrooms? And really, they just can't read. They haven't been met where they need to be met, and they're struggling. So it's important to remember you need to find the balance. So ask your students. And one of the articles that I read, a teacher was working with fluency with her students, and she asked them to create a definition after they had been using timed reading drills. Examples of this would be Ames Web, which I have personally had experience doing in my action research placement. And this is just where students do a cold read, which means they read a text that they have never before been exposed to. And it's simply a word per minute result. So the students gave the definition of fluency as being reading as fast as you can. Oh, well, that's when a parent helper takes you out into the hallway with a stopwatch. And I thought this was hilarious because that's what we do. You know, that's when you're doing Ames Web or when you're doing like dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, that's what children think they're doing. So then they want to know, well, what was my number now? Did I read faster? And they're not even thinking about their expression or how well they're reading it or if they're comprehending anything they're reading. So a student created definition after using fun fluency kits, which we'll talk about in just a second, in authentic, engaging, and meaningful ways, was that the student said, fluency is reading like you talk, not too fast and not too slow, with expression and no sounding out. It's also important to understand what you read. And this was a collective second grade classroom students that made this definition. And I just thought this was wonderful. And it's perfect and it's exactly what it is. And if you can take anything and make it authentic and engaging and meaningful and fun, why would you not want to do that? I mean, why do something boring and turn people off to reading when if you can make it fun, make it fun. Yeah, it's extra work, but if you're in teaching for the right reasons, that should be your goal. So what makes it fun? Create a fluency kit. And this is how I would use this in my classroom, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this as well. Students can roll a dice and make a different voice each time they read. I thought, how cool. So it's like a fluency game, you know. And sometimes when they're doing these, they don't even really know that they're learning, and I think that's the best part. So students can read to small plastic animals on their desk. Maybe they have an imaginary friend and they want to fluently read to them. Whatever works. Students can dress up, wear a mask, etc. while they read. Students can use a pointer or a flashlight, which I thought was super cool. Like you could turn your whole room, like you could have a little tent over the reading carpet where it's dark and they could get in there and point with their flashlight to each word as they're reading it. Give students a microphone. You know, especially EC, like we do fun stuff. Like this is what we do. Give them a microphone. They'll want the spotlight. Let them go with it. Be courageous, know your students, and try new strategies. Try to ingrain a desire for lifelong reading and learning within your students. When I did my action research, I did readers theater versus choral reading, which strategy showed the most improvement, and my results were pretty much the same. But the group of students that I had enjoyed readers theater much more because they would be so excited, like, oh, Miss Hall, you know, what character are we going to be next week? Or if they got to be an animal, that was coolest. Like, so those are like familiar strategies to do fluency, and those work as well. So maybe if you're doing readers theater, let them make a mask or let them dress up. So you can incorporate it several different ways. And these are my references, but I also have a handout because I wanted you guys to see these pictures. And it's just pictures of the fluency kit. Like this one shows the dice and the microphone and the mask. And then this fluency kit actually, if you Google this, you can find me. But this one had, the teacher had saved up and like asked parents for old flip phones that they don't use anymore because, you know, we have a flip phone now. So they still have a recorder on. Like if they take pictures, they'll have a camera. So kids are all about playing with phones and technology. So put these in a fluency kit, let them record themselves on the phone reading. After they practice it, let them hear themselves again. They should be able to hear, because if they're going off their student definition, they should be able to hear the difference. If it sounds good, they're becoming more fluent. If it doesn't sound so good, we need to step back or figure out maybe it's the level book, what's going on. what do you need to work on? Are you missing punctuation? Are you, so I just thought that was great. And then there's pictures of students doing reader's theater with little animal masks that they had made. So if you guys would just pass them down.
I saw some wonderful costuming going on today.
They're really excited about that. It's really hard to get through the first hour and a half because you did work. When are you going to do reader's theater?
That would confirm your results.
Yes. So they're very excited about that.
Which, by the way, speaking in researchees, that would be no significant difference. Morning, you found no significant difference.
No.
Right.
No.
Your results were pretty much the same. There's no significant.
Yes. Yeah, it was
Except for
pretty much.
motivation factor, that was really interesting.
Yeah. That was, they were more excited for reader's theater, but as far as their word per minute rate, it was just pretty much average for either strategy that we did.
I love that. This is patient. Stop.
Yeah, I thought that was too funny.
Okay, Jenny, when you're finished, you can stop.
Should everyone stand for that
Yeah.
7th inning stretch?
All right.
Come
good
on.
job.
It takes me a minute to do this anyway. It is hard to sit on those plastic seats, I think.
I remember sweating.
Okay, let's do some easy song to do with children. Come on.
Right, how do you do this?
All right, go. Get the toes, get the seesaw, you should all have to right, go understand. That idea of using the words sounds like.
And why is it like
When you're finished, hit escape and go back to that screen where we. Are we? Are you ready? Ready.
All right, I have really enjoyed the fluency presentations because we all have a lot in common in that we found some of the same articles. So I'm just going to try to highlight a couple of things that haven't already been highlighted. I loved it that you found Timothy Rosinski and that I did too because I hadn't had action research. And Dr. Rosinski, like you said, is right here at Kent State University in Ohio. So if you plan to teach in Ohio, you should give Kent State a call and maybe he'll come and speak at a teacher's meeting about fluency or something like that. He is really the expert. He's written over 150 articles. Let me go up to my next work site page. He's written over 150 articles. He's co-authored or authored or edited 15 books or curriculum programs. And he's co-author of the award-winning fluency program called Fluency First. I'm not. Is that older now? Or is that a new one? And he's also been a classroom teacher. He taught Title I. And so he has real life experience. So what a wonderful treasure to have right here in Ohio. We should call on him. And then I also read the Cahill thing,
And then, so the one I'll talk about a little bit more is the digital text, because you can put some pizzazz in your fluency instruction with digital. And I was really encouraged. I'm at New Boston doing my tutoring for these last 2 weeks, and they are the poorest school district in the state of Ohio. You know, the state of Ohio has 620 school districts, and they're in the poorest district because of their community, not necessarily the school itself, but their community. And I was so encouraged that they have just banks of iPads because of their new experience. And so that was great. And the kids are proficient on them, and they're really enhancing their education. So at first I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't talk about iPads because maybe a lot of schools are still very poor, and I know that they are. But even when Ohio's poorest found access to iPads, then that gave me hope. But, you know, you always have to have your overview of the basic elements of fluency. Or the important thing about rate, accuracy, and prosody that I wanted to bring out is Dr. Wasinski especially said, you know, they all grow together. You have to focus on them all at the same time. He, in fact, kind of criticized the practice of read as fast as you can, read, and then be taken out in the hall and be handed a similar piece. He kind of criticized our practice of doing that. He thinks that's only focusing on rate and not so much on accuracy or prosody. So you've got to have the accuracy and the prosody, the rhythm and the tone, and the decoding the words correctly to get that rate. They all work together. And like we talked about in class before, it is that bridge. Fluency is that key to comprehension. When you have prosody in your tone, you know, your teacher knows that you are comprehending their text. So they all agreed, all articles I read, these three and several others, just like you brought out, is the number one thing to do is reader's theater. Because really the number one thing to do is repeated reading. That's really the number one thing to do. But to do repeated reading in a meaningful and motivating way is to make it authentic by giving the students or the children a part in a bigger picture where they're motivated to repeat read. It helps avoid the dull and lifeless repeated readings that we're talking about that are so common to fluency practice. And the whole goal of the performance gives it meaning and helps the kids feel motivated, and they have more buy-in. And you can, in a sneaky way, as a really great teacher, accommodate different levels of ability in the same script. So that's what's really nice about it. With these authentic repeated readings, what you're doing is the students are increasing their text level automaticity, which really means rate. And this is a situation, this is just a picture of students hearing themselves rehearse with whisper or story phones. And see, I'm not an early childhood ed or an elementary ed teacher, so story phones and whisper phones were new to me. So they're old to you, I'm sure. Are they new to anybody else? Am I the only one that they're new to? Okay, a couple people. Okay, whisper phone. And I think older students might like it. And this is a situation where it does help improve it's like when you hear yourself singing. If you're in the choir, you gotta close your ear to be able to hear yourself, see if you're on the right pitch. And as with everything else, you can make your own. And how many of you have made your own? That was new to me too. We've had some that made their own. The good old PVC pipe. 6 inches attached at both ends with 90-degree elbow.
And they also have those curved pieces. If you look at all the pieces that Lowe's has and they'll have, so they help you just say, looking for whisper phones.
And then just with the addition of the cheetah duct tape, and you've got it. But the most wonderful thing, I probably use the word wonderful too much, but this really is there are so many websites that have great things for you to see as examples, but the Screen Actors Guild How many of you have been to this site? If I have time, we'll have to look at it. Who are the Screen Actors Guild members? They're movie stars. And what they've done is the Screen Actors Guild Foundation reads books. And it's mainly for the younger. But there are a couple cases where older students may kind of get into this too, where you have a celebrity. Listen, my natural way to speak is monotone and kind of lends toward grouchy. And if I have daily, I try to work on that, Dr. Cohen, I do. But it doesn't help. My students, if I had a classroom, would not want to hear me model perfect reading or reading with or fluent reading. They would get sick and tired of me. So look, I would have someone like Betty White. I would have Tia and Tamara. They have one. There's big movie stars doing this. Lou Diamond Phillips reads The Polar Express. And what is so nice about this site is they do a little bit of each side. They will have the camera right on the face of the star for a little while, and then they'll show the book. And they're all picture books, so they have beautiful illustrations. And in some cases, they're semi-animated. Where if the bear's walking along, they're using the illustration from the book, which is already an piece of art in itself, but then they're using a little bit of animation. It's just wonderful. Of course, it only takes 3 minutes to read a book. It won't take you long to look at that. Well, not the Polar Express, but I mean, some of the little picture books, it doesn't take them long. Some of them use props with it, and you've just got to visit the site. So what's so nice about this, especially if we're talking about the one article I looked at, which was snuzzing it all up with technology, is you let the child use the iPad to listen to this or to view this fluent reader reading the storybook individually, or you can project it to a screen for a small group or the big screen for the whole class. So it's so versatile, and it has related activities to use. Other things you can do along these same lines, there are hundreds of Reader's Theater scripts, poems, songs, jingles, so many things on the internet already. And if you do choose to use the high-tech route, you can download each of these on the students' iPads. You can go through and modify the script. You can take the character's name out and put your student's name. You can divide it up in that way. And then you can enlarge the print. You can change the print. You could shorten or cut out or add some things. And then give each, then you can put it all in Dropbox, and then the students can access them there. They can record their acting, they can replay it, and they can evaluate it for prosody, accuracy, and automaticity. Then you can go to your iPad and add sound effects and music. So you've really got it going on. And I love the article, too, that you brought out about the dice, giving the students a microphone and having them act like a radio announcer, speaking like an animal with an animal face mask, and reading to your animals. I'll only add the one more thing is I tried the reading to the animals this summer for my really low, slow, quiet reader, and I brought in the teddy bear, the Jack Nicklaus teddy bear, and I said, do you have teddy bears at home, Sarah? And she says, yes. And so I said, every day from now on, after we're out of summer school, would you please read to your bears? And she said she would, and she promised me she will do that, and so we practiced with Jack Nicklaus. And at the end of some of her sentences, her little voice just kind of lilted up, like she's really trying to read to Jack. So. And Dr. Wazinski created this fluency rubric. It doesn't give him credit, but it's in his article. But when I Googled it just to try to find one I could put on here, it doesn't really give him credit. But he and someone else created this rubric. So there's one for you that, you know, if we download these, you can have a nice rubric. And that's it.